Hello, everybody. I'm Ryan Hanna, and for my project for DGST 395, I wanted to discuss Bitcoin and Bitcoin speculation and any sort of like investment around Bitcoin or even just cryptocurrency in general. And I want to also say, first of all, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just an idiot on the internet, just some dude. So I want to make it abundantly clear. I'm no expert. Nothing I say should be treated as like, I don't know, like financial advice, I guess. All right, anyways, so also just some caveats too. If you ever do want to get interested in this topic, like every single penny or whatever sort of currency, whatever like the smallest unit of your preferred currency is that you put into Bitcoin, should definitely be money that you could afford to lose because like it's just it's just not a smart play to put in money that like you need, even though like okay you could get lucky and it could go up, but like if you get unlucky then what? So it's just really not worth it. I sort of come into this field with kind of like a poker player background, so I have the mentality of like it doesn't have to like work out every time if you get paid enough. The times when it does work out, if that makes sense. But that also like at the same time I'm not trying to like light money on fire either. So I have sort of that like mentality as well. It doesn't mean just like be reckless and just like because something could go up a lot, like throw your money at it. But historically, Bitcoin has had interesting performance, so I thought it'd be an interesting topic. But anyways, so this isn't the point of this project isn't really to like explain what Bitcoin is or anything like that. There's plenty of better sources for that. This is just sort of to give like my opinions, and I've like been doing like a little bit of like research on my own and just sort of like I don't know, maybe it could help somebody, maybe not, but we'll see how it goes. And anyways, so this is if anybody tries to sell you this, this is not what Bitcoin is. Bitcoin is not a tangible thing. Just to get that out there, I know I said I'm not going to explain what it is and all that, but it's just kind of funny that this even exists in the first place. I guess it just looks cool, but it's weird. I'm sure some people think that this is actually what it is. Anyways, this is like the big kit and caboodle of what I'm going to display here. And I did not make this or anything like that, but it's just an excellent source. And it just sort of has like historical price data, and then it has like what would have happened had you invested X amount at X point in time. So this is like the reason to like be interested in it. And I mean that's like the craziest one. I'll start with like a more like reasonable one. Let's say you got it on like the COVID crash. I think that was around the time. So this is like a 2 year cycle basically, almost 2 years. I don't think it's up to January, but so here it would have been a 7.13x, so 700 over 700% ROI, which is fantastic in the world of investing. Obviously, that this spot is probably like cherry picked, like at like the bottom of the COVID crash and all that stuff, but a super interesting one is if you go back, if you really want to see a cherry picked one, this is one. So still the same amount of thousand. This would be July 18th, 2010. So this is like when it was barely available anywhere. The world barely knew it, barely ever heard of Bitcoin, and it had just started being like traded. And then as this number does insane things, which we'll talk about at the end. I guess I'll just keep talking for a second. So there are some risks in investing in anything, obviously. So just want to make that abundantly clear. Um, Anytime you invest in anything, like one of the biggest risks, assuming you don't like use leverage or something like that and try to like trade with like more money than you actually have, the biggest risk is like yourself and like your own emotions. Like you can see something going up and you think it's like the best time to buy, and then you buy at the worst time, or you see something going down and you think it like, okay, I gotta sell it before it goes down anymore, and then it like turns around. So it's really easy to like play yourself. So that's why I think personally I think, and I know a lot of people think this as well, the best play with this sort of the trade would be to buy it and hold it for a long time. And as you've seen down here, what happens when you do buy and hold it for a long time is that this is obviously super cherry picked and everything, but this is like, had you just bought it, not looked at it for whatever, like almost 12 years, it's like just a decade, your 1,000 turns into 418 million. And this is price is different now, but this is just like an example of like the insane ROI potential. And a lot of people see Bitcoin as like an inflation hedge and as a way to sort of like hedge against other things. Just, I mean, specifically inflation is the biggest one because of the scarcity. But I don't know. I think it makes sense to some degree, and it could make sense to be like a store of value to some degree, and it sort of has like the same like utility at like any price point. So like at $1, even though like it's being traded for $1, it functions exactly the same way. It does the same exact thing as it does as 100, and like what it does, the main like benefit of it, in my opinion, is permissionless like transfers of wealth, basically. So like permissionless payments and censorship resistance. Like since it's not centralized and there's no like government that can like directly like the government could like a government could like outlaw Bitcoin, for example, but they can't like really do anything about the Bitcoin network. Like outside of like, I don't know, like anybody like doing it like illegally in their country and getting away with it could just be getting Bitcoin and be transacting through it and be like using that to like move wealth potentially or whatever. So I don't know. The way I first sort of heard about Bitcoin personally was that I was a poker player and I was trying to get money onto like this online site to play poker on, and for whatever reason you weren't allowed to like transact with them using money, even though they like were like legitimate and paid out and everything like that. But you were allowed to transact with them using Bitcoin. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll like look into this. And then I also like looked at like the chart at the same time, and was like, wow, this is a pretty big uptrend here, like a lifetime uptrend in my opinion. So I got pretty interested in it. And whenever you look at some of these ROIs, it's not too hard to see why. The thing about Bitcoin too is like even though it has the potential to go up, and this is Bitcoin and just cryptocurrencies in general, even though it has the potential to go up a ton, it also has the potential to go down a ton. So it's like this double-edged sword of volatility and like pain on both ends. Like anybody that's like selling like anybody that's like liquidating and selling out of their Bitcoin, like they see the price go up and they're like, oh, it's gonna go down, and then it keeps going up. They're like, oh, I could have held it for so long. And anybody that like buys it and then it goes down, they're feeling the pain as well. So it's sort of like I don't know, it's that's how like every market is, but it's sort of just like there's a lot of ways to be hurt by it, and it seems like the best strategy is buying and holding. And you see right here, like look at how much the ROI went down. This is like it's like when Bitcoin is like when everything is going great, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies can be like the best performing assets, and whenever they're not going great, then they can be like the absolute worst performing. Since their price is purely based on like supply and demand, there's no it's not like a stock market where like if it goes down like whatever like X amount of points or percentage or whatever, the stock market can like sort of like pull the switch and halt trading on it. This is like if everyone's selling, and they're gonna sell it down. If everyone's buying, and they're gonna buy it. Like it's not. It's pure supply and demand, and like nothing more. I mean, I'm sure like every market is kind of like manipulated to some degree by whatever players have enough money and all that, but I don't know. It's just it's like a very pure sort of supply and demand outside of that manipulation, I guess. And even in the context of that manipulation is happening like sort of through that lens. So anyways, yeah, so yeah, we can check this here and just see sort of like versus other assets. So if you had bought the S&P 500 a year ago, you'd be up 2%. Bitcoin, you'd be down 19, which that's great for you. If you bought that, or if you bought gold, you'd be up even instead of Bitcoin. You'd be up 7. But this is sort of more interesting than this, because like as you see here, look at how much it went down. Like the ROI. I don't know, there's plenty of times where it just goes down. This is like the multi-year, so it's never going to be like red except for like really recent stuff, or unless like the lifetime uptrend so far turns around, which it could at any point, whatever. It's just some stuff here. This is like the sort of like current price. It's sort of finding like a floor down here around the like 35, 40ish range currently. And there's a lot of like statistics on it and stuff. And this is the most interesting part right here. It's sort of the ROI to today. So you'll see like, yeah, like if you bought here, you have like the same ROI as buying here, because the price went up, then it went down, then you'd have higher ROI, and then it went back up. And this is down a lot. Like if you bought up here at 462 and it goes down to that feels awful for you. Like that's like you've lost over 50% of your initial investment if you sell there. So there's, I don't know, it's a little bit of a double-edged sword. But still at the same time, like, and these aren't even, it's not even like these traditional assets are like bad, for example. These are just, this is like, and obviously this site I believe is sort of like operated by somebody that's like pro Bitcoin, so maybe there's potentially some bias there. But I still don't doubt the validity of this, because it's not really hard to understand how this happens whenever the price starts out like fractions of a cent, and then it goes up to tens of thousands of dollars, and then potentially in the future hundreds of thousands, or even maybe even millions. Who knows? We'll see. But yeah, it's really interesting, and there's a lot of potential benefit, and there's also a lot of potential harm. And I'll leave like one final like word of advice too. I know this isn't about like what Bitcoin is and all that stuff, but it is something that would sort of help people potentially if anybody watches this and doesn't know. So if and when you do decide to like buy Bitcoin or any other sort of cryptocurrency, whenever you buy it on the exchange, so you don't really like own the cryptocurrency, because it's still like on the exchange's wallet as far as the cryptocurrency like network is concerned, if that makes sense. So because you don't own like the private keys to that, they're not actually like your coins. So like if you buy an amount that you want to like invest in or whatever, I suggest that you buy whatever amount you want and then transfer it off the site to like a private wallet of your own. Because if you do that, that will allow you to actually like retain the like access to the cryptocurrency. So sort of like in the event that like the exchange gets hacked or something like that, you're not going to be harmed in any way. Like imagine like they could like the exchange couldn't like pay everybody back and they got hacked or whatever, then you could just be out. And that's one final risk as well with cryptocurrency. So there are a lot of potential risks, even though there's a lot of potential reward as well. And one of the potential risks too is so like even in like the example I was just talking about sending it to like your own wallet, if you like mistype your wallet address, like at all, like if you send it to the wrong like wallet, it's gone. It's just like there's no one that can help you. Like there's no like tech support or anything. Like it's gone. So yeah, that's something to be aware of too on the downside. But I've been talking a lot about the downside, like the whole video, but it doesn't even like. If you look at this, you're sort of just like what downside? Like even here, like even just like the last few years, you'll see like up here. So like this means that it went down again, because then the price went back up, or the ROI went back up. So there's a lot of times where it goes up a lot, and then it has to, like whenever it goes up so much, it has to sort of the price has to sort of just have periods where it consolidates for a while or it goes back down a little bit, because like it can only go up so fast. And yeah, but I mean I think overall it's a pretty insane investment. We'll do one more of these just for fun. These are always interesting. And sort of just I'll just sort of give like my closing thoughts as we're watching it. Let's say November 16th, 2012. Let's say 1,000 again. And let's do it. Yeah, so our 1,000 is already went up 100x, went up to 100,000. And this is sort of like the thing with Bitcoin, and this is what I've been talking about the whole time with like the sort of double-edged sword. And just sort of not even just Bitcoin, but like trading or investing in general. And it sort of applies to poker too, and all that kind of stuff. Just any sort of thing where you have to make like financial decisions and your like emotions are involved. It's like you have the potential to mess up. And like on this, like for example, like let's say you invested 1,000, you saw it go up to 100,000. You might be like, oh, let me sell. Well, that's good. But if you kept holding, it would have gone up a lot more. Or you could have like, I mean, technically if you did it perfectly, you could have like sold when it went up and bought it when it went back down and all that kind of stuff. But realistically, it's easier to just bought it, hold it 9 years, don't look at it, just don't even look at it. Like, don't like forget about it necessarily, but just like don't worry about it. Like you should be putting in money that you can't afford to lose anyways, and that sort of goes back to the whole point anyway. Like, so if you put in money where if you lose that amount of money, like, I mean, obviously you're never happy to lose any amount of money ever, and no one is. But if you put in money and you lose it and it doesn't affect your life, like, okay. But if you put let's say you could afford to put in 1,000, November 16, 2012, you just bought $1,000 of Bitcoin and just sort of sat on it. And then you didn't care if it went to zero. You didn't care if it went to like a million. You were just weren't even paying attention to it. And then you look like it's insane. The ROI potential is insane. And I don't even think necessarily Bitcoin is the best way to generate ROI today because the price is already so high. Like, for Bitcoin to do like a 20x from the current prices, it would be up at like 800,000, which I'm not saying it can't do. It's just sort of like it's probably going to take a little while because the price is already so high, and the market cap's already so big. So it's just harder and harder to move the market the more like the higher and higher the price gets. But it's definitely not impossible. But in any event, I still think it's going to be a pretty good, relatively good investment. I think it's going to be, I don't know, like at least a good inflation hedge, if nothing else. And obviously, you don't put like all your net worth in it or whatever, but maybe like a small allocation of your portfolio could make sense. And again, I want to remind everybody, another time, I'm not a financial advisor or anything like that. These are just like my opinions, and just from sort of like the research I've done and from what I've seen. Oh yeah, and then these are just like some interesting facts that the person that made this page has posted here, and these are just pretty hilarious. Like a person with 10K to spare in 2010 could have become a billionaire by 2017. If he got drunk and spent $1 million USD in Bitcoin back in 2010, he'd have an extra 98 billion in his pocket right now. All these are just funny little things because the ROI has just been historically so insane. And yeah, so thanks. Hopefully this helps somebody.